Hey guys!
Hello!
Hello!
Welcome back to Wandering into Wellness. And today you have two familiar faces and one less familiar face, but probably more familiar to you than both of these faces.
No.
Maeve Madden.
Hi everyone!
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So you are a fitness industry professional and you have a really interesting trajectory for us because you have begun to share about some of the health issues that you've been coping with and the level of authenticity I think both of us were like shocked by. It was
great.
Well, it's great because it's disarming.
Yes.
And when it's disarming, it's kind of interrupting that kind of, you know, must keep all conversation in a polite format and must not like ever show our true colors or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we were like really excited to see how did you get to the point of being like, was there a moment where you had a post where you went, I'm just going to hit send on this one, or what?
Very much so.
Can you tell us about
It
that
was, so I had always posted, this is kind of in the beginning of Instagram, like, you know, the best pictures and the best videos and like really edited videos and things like that. And
because you came from a modelling kind of
background,
world, right?
yeah. So I was a dancer before. I danced with Michael Flatley, and then I went to university, and then I modelled, and then Instagram kind of came around, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna. But like influencer or working in Instagram didn't exist then.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of, you were just posting like your great pictures.
It was your diary stuff,
And people asked, they were like, oh, we want to see videos and stuff. Like, what are you doing? So I started doing that, and it was almost for me because I was kind of going through a body transformation. I was going from being like girl with serious eating disorder to strong, healthy me that you know now. And so I was kind of almost using it as a diary, kind of jotting that down. Anyway, I was on holiday and I couldn't post anything because I got really bloated and it was like really bad and it wasn't going away.
Wow.
And I was like, what am I going to do?
Crisis.
And we didn't have stories or anything. And then I was like, maybe I should just post this weird bloating picture and like talk about it because that's what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And I haven't posted for like 2 weeks, and obviously then that didn't really matter. Now it would be like, oh my God, you haven't posted for 2 weeks.
I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to post this picture. So I just posted it, and everyone was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I was like, well, it's not really amazing because it happens to me all the time. And I was like, and I almost did it for myself.
I was wondering,
like, I know people were like, oh, you've really inspired me. And I was like, well, I'm kind of wondering what you do and like what's wrong with you, because this is what's wrong with me, and maybe we can chat about it.
Trying to work it out. It was
Yeah.
almost as a way to solve your problems. Again, like, guys, this thing, what is this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was great because a lot of people, I find that on those kind of posts, more people will send you direct messages rather than comment because people are still embarrassed. And although I'm like 0 F's given, I'm like, well, I don't really care. I just want to know what's wrong. You do get a lot of people like messaging you directly being like, oh, well, this is what's wrong with me, and I've been to this doctor, which is amazing. And I always say like what doctors I go to, because that's something like you go on Google and you're kind of like, there's like a million doctors, like who's the best, or you know, and it's so expensive, especially if it comes to fertility issues.
Listen, it's out of control money-wise.
It's so expensive, and that's something that's not covered by any insurance company. Is if you have something fertility like wrong with you, it's just not covered. So I'm always sharing.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. I called my insurance recently and I was like, hi, I really need an operation and I have this wrong. They're like, whoa, we diagnosed? And I was like, no, it's self-diagnosis, but I know. And they were like, well, as long as it's nothing to do with fertility or trying to get pregnant, then we can cover that.
God.
And I was like, so what if it was? And they were like, well, you just have to pay for that. And I think it's now because so many people are talking about it and more open about it online, and so many people actually realize, actually, I do have that, like what the symptoms that you have, I have, and I thought it was just normal, and like it's not normal. Like if you have symptoms, if you're not feeling amazing, like, or you know, if you're not just feeling normal
and you're doing things right, and you're looking after yourself,
exactly, then something must be wrong and you should go to the doctor about that. And so I think more people are getting diagnosed with issues that maybe that's the reason.
Okay, fair enough.
There
so
we
the
go.
insurance company's just running scared probably.
They're like, exactly.
Cases.
Maeve Madden's ruining our business.
Maybe an insurance co.
Yeah.
Next project.
Exactly. Never know.
But So what was going on with you? That bloating, that was a part of, was it PCOS, IBS? What did you understand?
I think it was a mix of everything.
Yeah.
Well, I was diagnosed with IBS, and it runs in my family,
Okay.
especially on my mom's side.
Yeah.
My mom had, my grandmother did as well, and so I was diagnosed with that when I was a child, actually.
Yeah.
And it was very much like, oh, you have IBS, and they would have said to my mom, oh, give her some Fibogel. And then when I was older, I remember going back to the doctor, and they were again the same thing. Oh, take this gel, and that was it. Or like have some bran flakes, which are actually great because they do have a lot of fiber in them, and we don't get enough fiber in our diets. Most people don't.
Massive issue.
So, so then I was like, well, the doctor isn't really telling me anything about this, so I kind of need to work on this myself and educate myself in a way. And what I did, I went and studied nutrition, and then I was like, oh, I'll do my personal training at the same time. And so that's kind of how I got into that field. But at the time, that's what had happened. When I was on holiday, and I feel like a lot of people do get bloated, like you're drinking more alcohol, you're not staying hydrated, and you're lying around all day, you're not, so there's all these things that most people do, and then they get bloated. And so that was probably at that time what had caused that.
Okay. How long ago was that?
Then I posted my bloating picture.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like how long are we
I
talking?
don't know, maybe like 3 years ago.
Okay, so it's reasonably recent past, like the recent
Well,
history
yeah,
stuff.
Instagram isn't really around that long, is it? 2015. Yeah, it must have been like 2015.
Okay,
4
amazing.
years ago.
Wow.
Where does the time go?
I'd say, yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And so in terms of your health from then till now,
Yeah.
how, like, if you say a percentage of wellness, like 100% being great, 0% being dead, at that point versus now, where were you at then and where are you at now, would you say? In terms of those issues particularly.
In terms of IBS, I think then I was probably at like 20%, where it was like so bad. And now I would say I'm at like 80-90%. Probably like, I just feel like it doesn't bother me as much. I just feel like I really understand my condition.
Great.
I know how to live with it.
Great.
I do take a amazing supplement, like a natural food supplement.
Okay.
They have it here today, Simprove. But I've actually started taking that because a friend of mine had like chronic IBS, and we were actually on holiday. I'm not always on holiday, but we were on holiday. And she was like, I was like, oh, my tummy. She was like, Maeve, I'm taking this stuff called Simprove. You can buy it in Whole Foods in London. And I was like, oh, I mean, you're kind of like, I think when you have the condition, you're like, I will try anything. And it was really expensive. And I was like, ooh. But anyway, I bought it. I started taking it. And then I started taking it all the time. And I felt like in the first couple of weeks, I was like, this isn't doing anything. Then after a while, I was like, oh my God. And then nothing happened, where I would usually be like really bloated and really affected by different foods. And then I was like, oh my God, this stuff must be working because nothing's happened, which means that it's working because something usually happens.
And the big problem for loads of people, like, so we have a health food store in Rathmines, so a lot of people we talk to, we're trying to use lots of different interventions to work on nervous system, digestive system, immunity, whatever. And people don't notice when symptoms go away. People notice when they come back. So we always have to say to people, try it for a month, 2 months, and then take a break. Like, you have to take a break, or else you're not going to know that it's done the thing, because then it's not going to start to pick its head up again.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where, and that was what happened. I took it for like say 3 or 4 months, and then I stopped taking it. And then I came back and I was like, oh my God, I need to take this stuff. And then I started talking about it online, and then I ended up reaching out to the company and was like, I love your product. I want to learn more about this. And so now I actually work with them, which is great. They're really fun, and Barry he's so funny. He has a farm and he shows you everything. Yeah. And it's so great. You're like, this is amazing. It's just like curing, helping to cure people. Amazing. So that was kind of, I don't know where my conversation's going.
So I'm just really curious. But
So that's where, and it's great. It's like a natural food supplement that you can take that.
And so what exactly does it do? So for people with IBS, so like to lay that, because I mean, some of our watchers will know about that, or listeners, but it's a nervous system disorder that manifests in the gut, right? Yes. So bloating is one of the things, but you get cramping.
Oh yeah, you get like constipated, you can get diarrhea, like just major bloating. But at the same time, like your gut is like your second brain. Like everything slows down, so it just affects everything. It affects your whole way of life. You become really sluggish and tired, and you don't want to exercise. And you aren't. Yeah, it's horrible. Nightmare. And it's then you're, because your gut is so unhealthy, you're not, like, you may be eating a healthy balanced diet, but you're not like,
Absorbing
you're not getting anything from it because your microbiome is just
on the floor.
just
okay.
horrible.
Okay, great. And so you started doing that. I know we've seen some of your like directions online. Some of them I'm like curious about. Some of them, so like you're like no nut butters. Actually, let's just go there. No nut butters. Why no nut butters?
No, it was more. Someone did say that to me. They were like, "Oh, why no nut butters?" And I was like,
"We've given everything else up."
Almond butter is completely fine, but like peanut butter can be much harder just to digest, and especially yes, exactly. And when someone has really, like, I still eat peanut butter. I'm not going to lie and say I don't eat it. I do buy it, but then I buy a good organic peanut butter that is just peanuts, and that is it. And so when I said no nut butter, because a lot of people will go into a shop and not naming any brands, but pick up a really cheap one that's not even, I'm like, what is that? Like, it's just horrible. And it's just like, please don't eat that. It's full of sugars and
salt,
palm oil and just, it's just rubbish. So, but like almond butter is great, and you can eat that.
Somebody was saying to me yesterday, unfortunately, I know we've had this debate before, cashew nuts, unfortunately.
That's really, yes,
I can. Having a real problem with cashews.
Cashews are bad.
Like the FODMAP thing and lots of other, it's a
But
killer.
then the FODMAP thing is another thing. I get a lot of people message me saying, I've tried the FODMAP diet. I'm like, okay, with whom? Myself? No, wrong. Dietitian, not even nutritionist, dietitian. If you're doing FODMAP, you have to do it with a dietitian. You can't just be like, I'm going to do this myself because someone said online I should, and just Google it. It's just wrong. Like, those are, especially a diet like that, like a FODMAP diet is where you strip back everything and then you slowly start to reintroduce foods and see, what your trigger foods are, because they will be different for the majority of people, unless you're like, things like onions and garlic just probably won't go with an IBS tummy. But for such a strict diet like a FODMAP diet, you need to do that under supervision with a dietitian.
And I think also, like, for us as women, there's different things, right? So there's a man doing it, but like our cycle changes so much stuff, so dependent where you are in the month is going to be triggering or not triggering. So you could be doing it at home and thinking like, oh, I can eat this, and then you might react to it, but you might be reacting to it because you're on your 14th day of your cycle or the first day of your cycle. And those things need to be taken into account and understood as well, I think.
So that's why when you're doing, like, if you were doing a FODMAP diet, it's really important to do it like with specialists.
Big time. And did you work with nutritionists, dietitians yourself, or do you? Because I know you're trained, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What did you do actually? Sorry.
I just did a course.
Okay.
So I did a course with a group in London, and I did my fitness course with that. And at the moment, I'm doing a course so I can teach pregnant ladies how to exercise.
Oh,
I
cool.
think that's really
interesting.
I love that because, well, what happened was I have these two gorgeous girls that I train with in London, and then one of them got pregnant, and she was like, "And I can't," and that was it.
We're out.
And I was like, "No, we can still do it." And she was like, "No, I'm just sitting here and I'm not going to move." And I was like, "No, it'll be so much better. The stronger you are, like the better it will be for your birth." I can't say that I know that as a fact because I've never had a baby, but I think that if I was going to have a baby, and if the doctor said you're healthy and strong and you can continue to exercise, then I would want to do that. So that's why I want to learn all about that.
Cool.
Like, I know the basics, but obviously I always think you should never teach something unless you have a qualification.
And I think, like, for you as well, you said this. Your teaching changed a lot when you had Ruben, right? I mean, like, you have theory, you can all the theory you want, and you see a lot of women, and so you get to see some of the, okay, so this works for that type and this doesn't work for that type, but still, until you've done it yourself, like, it's walking a mile in somebody's shoes, really, isn't it?
I think it's valid. Like, I taught pregnancy yoga for maybe 5 or 6 years before I became pregnant, and I think I gave great classes. I don't think that everyone was like, oh, that was terrible. I still have mums who've come, they're now on their 4th pregnancy and they started with me and they're still coming back to me. But I think some things definitely change, like dependent on the pregnancy you've had and how you felt on those days. And certainly for me, I was still teaching all my regular classes when I was pregnant. So then the type of pregnancy class I wanted to go to wasn't like a really strong exercise class because I was pretty tired having already taught like 4 or 5 exercise classes that day. And I think, you inhabit knowing how it feels to have a pelvis of a pregnant person. It's very different to the theory of, like, knowing that. But I think also, like, coming back to what you were saying, you can know the theory of, like, you could probably know, oh, well, it's better not to do certain core exercises or certain twists or, whatever, supine poses or whatever the things are. But you do need to know, like, you're going to have a lady who's fine and then she's suddenly got SPD, or she's got, you know, hernia somewhere, or she's got vulval varicosities, or any of these things, and you're going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
I
getting
don't
a
know.
dictionary for a
What
start.
is
I
that?
don't know
Yeah.
what this does. I don't know where it is. And
Yeah.
so I think that's where it's really important for people, because it's kind of
Yeah.
a bugbear for me that
Mm-hmm.
people get pregnant and then they just hop into their regular yoga class again, and the teacher's like, well, sure, if you want to. And I'm like,
No.
don't do it.
Yeah,
Tailor the
exactly.
diet.
Don't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that are different.
I won't take even. I do private training. So I would go to like people's homes who have gyms in their homes, and I'll get people like, "Hi, I had my baby 2 weeks ago, and can you come and train me now?" I'm like, "No, just no. Contact me in a couple of months." But I am not going anywhere near that, because I'd be so afraid
I know.
that something would go wrong, and then you'd be like, "Oh no."
And also, I think we have the power in those situations to give people information like, that is your 4th trimester. That is the time
Yes.
for rest. It's
Yes.
so important that you're resting now
Mhm.
and nurturing your body and nurturing
Yeah.
your baby. And people might not have thought about that or have ever been exposed to it. And when you say to them, actually, no, I'm not going to, and the reason for it is this, and
Yes.
maybe you could read this book, it gives them permission to go, actually, maybe I will lie in
Because
bed
some
for 4
people
weeks,
are
'cause that's
so
important.
yeah. Some people are just so like, "Oh my god, I have to get back."
Programmed has to be
Yeah,
done.
it has to be, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah,
This
just
is
a moment.
why.
Yeah.
This is the thing
Yeah.
for us as women, though, especially with the Instagram generation, and
Yes.
so many people looking perfect and putting the perfect mum life out there on Instagram, and it's really, really hard, because I think we get pregnant and we just kind of imagine that we're going to just like bing, like
Yeah.
they all do
I know.
online.
They just pop right
They
back.
just pop right
You're
back,
like,
and
"That's amazing."
I know.
Then you see the reality of it, and you're like, "No."
No,
That
it's
doesn't
so
happen.
different, and it's such a funny thing as well, because yes, some people's bodies do that. Like,
Yes,
some
of
people
course, yeah.
naturally do that, but mostly if people do that, it's because they have a personal trainer, they have a dietitian, they have a chef on hand.
Yes,
They
exactly.
might not be working the same amount of hours. They might have a lot more support in terms of nannies or childcare or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just very different to the average woman.
Exactly.
And I think it's a bizarre thing that we've come to expect, that you're going to go through this transformative, life-changing event and come out the other side and have a body that somehow doesn't look like you've been through a life-changing event.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of a weird thing that we've
It
got
is.
into our head.
It
and
is.
been
I think
programmed
with
to
social media, like, that can just be. It can be so much pressure, like, on women. It's like, you know, it's really, really sad,
Yeah.
and people just kind of forget. And I think that's why I try and add that little bit of reality, and like
Absolutely.
make sure everything is just like, no, this is actually how I look all the time.
Yeah.
Like, instead of the fakeness that's out there.
I think it's so
I feel like I'm
important.
going to sneeze.
If it comes, it
Wait.
comes. No? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was like oh, 2 Stacey's. Bless you again.
No, we're going again.
3 of them.
Oh.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay,
Can we get
Okay,
to
I think
4?
that's it.
Are we done?
I
feel
have
like
really
that's
bad
a gift,
allergies.
like-
I was like, the whole time you were there, I was like, I was thinking about my sneeze. I was like, oh my god, focus on the
coming.
words. Focus on the words. Okay, no, we're going again.
You've got such a delicate
Okay.
sneeze.
I
Oh,
know.
really?
Brilliant.
No, I
It's
don't.
like she's perfected the art of
Exactly.
sneezing in
No,
a
for
graceful
sure.
way.
That's hilarious.
And so she's like,
It's
"Can I
coming.
sneeze now?"
I think it's because, like, every year, until someone told me the other day, they were like, did you know you can get an injection for hay fever? I was like,
What?
hold the phone? An injection?
What's that?
What is this? Supposedly, you can get, like, an allergy injection.
Antibodies sort of thing.
Yeah, for
God,
hay fever.
I did
And
not
I've
know
had,
that.
like, acupuncture, at the honey, done all the things, and
All
I
the
still
stuff.
get it really
It
bad.
still gets swamping. Okay.
Like, really
Are you
annoying
right in the
right
middle
now.
of the season at the moment? You already are.
It started last week.
We probably shouldn't have taken
But
you to
I
the woods to do
didn't-
this podcast. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We're
We'll
fine.
take you to a rose garden.
Yeah.
Like,
Really?
I didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, no problem. No, we're fine. You know what I did get that's actually amazing? The, what is it? This thing. The Dyson
Oh yeah. The thing
air
with the HEPA
purifier.
filter. That's amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So I have that, and I
Cool.
find that when I'm in my house, well, I only have it in London, not here, but
Yeah.
when I go outside, I'm very sneezy, but in the house, because I have it on all the
Amazing.
time.
all the time.
Electricity
yeah,
bill's going to
yeah.
be sky high, but who cares? I don't have any problems.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy, the amount of chemicals in the things that we use every day that we don't
Listen,
realise.
This is our number one bugbear.
Oh my
thing.
god! So
And I
you
think-
know
And the
how
ones we
there's
don't
some
see, the ones
woman
we
on
don't think about,
Instagram. She's like a cleaning lady. What's her name?
Oh, this sounds good.
she does like all like every Mrs. Hinch, and it's like a whole craze, and everyone's like, it's like, oh, Hinch your home, and she goes to these pound stores, and so she buys all this product. And when the lady came over to clean the apartment, she had brought me all these new products, and I was like, oh, what's this? And then I was telling a girl that I know who works in Dyson, and I was like, oh my God, there's this stuff and it smells great. Is it really bad for me? And she was like, that's one of the worst things that you can use. No.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
no,
a great cleaner woman who just does great clean stuff for your house.
No, it was and I was like, oh my God, this lady's like literally causing a hole in her ozone layer by herself because she's using all of these products like continuously. Like I think she might have OCD. And she's like, just her house is so spotlessly clean. And I was like, stop using all of this like crap.
It's terrifying for your microbiome.
I know.
Put the dirt back in.
Yeah,
dirt there.
There's just like her house is so spotless.
Oh, wow.
But they were saying like all of those products are just, you don't realize what's in your your air.
Yeah, the VOCs and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many plants you can put in. You know, NASA have a plant list.
Yeah.
Plants that clean VOCs
I've
from your home.
seen this.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Like bromeliads and spider plants and peace
That's
lilies.
really cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. What was I going to say? So yeah, also we got a spray recently from you know Dave Asprey, the bulletproof executive guy, does the bulletproof coffee thing.
Oh yes.
So he just started a company called Homebiotic,
Okay.
where it's a probiotic spray for your home that changes the microbiome in your home.
To prevent
really exciting.
mold and
prevent mold toxicity and all sorts of stuff. So anybody with like hay fever stuff, I mean, it would make a lot of sense, particularly in our
I
damp
must go
climate.
and
But there's
check
this
that
massive
out.
link as well between like IBS, autoimmune conditions, and allergy things.
Yes.
I mean, those two are
They're not
naturally
separate systems,
hand
it's
in
all-
hand.
No, it's all
yeah.
of them.
the same.
Yeah.
So it's there's so many of us that have gut issues, having histamine issues.
Especially in Ireland as
Massive.
well. That was like the
It's
first
massive.
thing.
It's weird, isn't it?
When I went to the doctor, insurance does cover that. So I actually went to a private doctor because I'm like really love going to the doctor. I'm always going. So I called him, I'm like, I need an appointment right now. I was like, I'm really bloated. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, I think I have like this and this wrong. And at that time I was like, oh, I want to be tested to see if I'm celiac. And they were like, right, okay. And he was like, oh, you're Irish, aren't you? I was like, yes. And he was like, well, you definitely will have IBS.
You probably will be.
And I was
you
like,
definitely have IBS.
why is that? And he was like, oh, we're the most prone nationality to having gut issues. And I was like, oh, I wonder why. And he was like, I don't know, you're just like, we have the most IBS out of all of the
I
nationalities.
think it's like damp though, right? Isn't it? It's like
There's so many
mucus
things.
formation and damp as well.
There's
Because we have the highest rate of
Celiac?
Nope.
No.
Crohn's?
No.
C did.
What is?
It begins with the C. That's just all the C's.
You know the one with all
This
the
is a new
mucus,
game.
cystic fibrosis?
Fibrosis,
Oh, right.
that's
yes.
right,
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And that's a real damp, phlegmy thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
I mean, we have such this damp climate of like wet, damp.
Yeah, and overexposure to wheat, and then a really narrow diet for like hundreds of years.
And also narrow gene pool.
Yeah, and then there's this weird massive stress thing, which we don't really talk about, but we had like, you know, a few hundred years of not great times in Ireland.
Yeah.
And that like necessarily does things to people's nervous system, and we're only learning it from an epigenetic point of view.
Yeah.
It's your grandmother's diet that affects how whether your skin's got eczema or not. You know,
that's mental.
It's so mental. Those connections we're only really beginning to pick up the pieces. Like there was one interesting study. I remember a few years ago. My first study that I read about epigenetics was about women during gestation, and if they if they had really high sugar diets, their children. If your grandmother didn't have enough sugar in her diet, or didn't have enough calories essentially in her diet, then her child's child, so you're this generation, would be more just prone to diabetes because your body's like, shit, famine, I'm just gonna like hoover up all the calories and just save them.
And that's the same as they did that study on people who'd been in concentration camps for the exact same reason. The next 2 generations down were all much more prone to stress-related conditions and diabetes and all those things.
So IBS is all in part of that thing, I guess, isn't it? Particularly because that nervous system stuff. I know, we're kind of like, we're vaguely in the driving seat, but there's all what they've done before. I don't know,
That's
it's amazing
mental,
stuff, isn't it?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But it does make sense.
It does make sense. I mean, like we were talking to Tony Riddle this morning about epigenetics, and his kind of, his framework on the world is so different that everything comes through the funnel. Everything he talks about comes through the funnel of what our ancestors did, and not just because like it's a pattern, like like paleo diet or whatever. Yeah, exactly. But more because actually their genetics, they're like whatever thousands of generations of evolution are us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we're
Yeah, of
not just, we
course.
didn't just get born and here we are, a fresh thing. It's not
Yeah,
a fresh
no.
thing at all.
Not so much has changed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our stress programming system hasn't changed.
Exactly.
We know that.
Yeah.
Everyone knows
Yeah.
that thing about the saber-toothed tiger and how we respond to stress
Yeah.
now as being the same way. So
Yeah.
if that's the same, of course it makes sense to look back at, well, what was working for them
Yeah.
then. And naturally there's different, like we have a different environment that we're living in now, so there has to be some adaptations to it. But
Definitely.
I think it makes absolute sense to be as informed as you can in that kind of situation.
So, what did you have particular stress triggers in your life that you have managed to like identify, cut out? What sort of like stress management tool things did you put in
Well,
for
I
the
know
IBS
that
stuff?
like through certain like major stressful situations,
Yeah.
that definitely triggered
The PCOS,
like my
one, or-
PCOS
okay, yeah.
and like whenever I was like, you know, going through like an eating disorder time and then coming out of that, that was all very much to do with stress and lack of control in my life.
Yeah.
Obviously then I controlled what I was eating and like my
Yeah.
exercise and stuff like that. And that obviously all had like major effect on my hormones and, you know, my gut and stuff.
Yeah.
It was actually before that particular time, so before eating disorder, I had my first operation for the PCOS. So I
Okay.
actually just had ruptured cysts.
Yeah.
But then a lot of people think that PCOS is just having like cysts on your ovaries,
Yeah.
which it isn't, because so every single month or the amount of cysts on your ovaries, like people will have cysts on their ovaries all the time, and that can change. It can go up and it can go down. And one
Yeah.
month you may look like you have polycystic ovaries, but then the next month it goes away. It's actually
amazing.
to do with your hormones and your
Yeah.
estrogen levels.
Yeah, which
And
feeds a lot from stress, I guess.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's one thing. So I always tell everyone, like, make sure you check and ask your doctor. Like, don't just get a scan. Like, you need like your blood test done
Yeah.
to see if you really do have this problem.
So one of the most profound bits of like information that I heard about that was that your cortisol robs progesterone. So when your body's making progesterone or cortisol, essentially
Yeah.
if you're stressed, it just doesn't make the progesterone, it just makes the cortisol instead, which is such a bummer, because
Yeah.
like essentially most people's problem is estrogen dominance, whether it's too much production or whether it's like a, you know, a problem with excretion, but
Yeah.
essentially like, yeah, the progesterone is the stuff we all need more of, guys, as well.
Yeah, of course.
It's a killer, isn't it, that
Yeah.
cortisol stuff? Do you like, have you had like within, obviously as a dancer, well, as the life you're in down now is not no less stressful, I'm sure, but have you managed to like cop on to the stress sources? Like, how do you
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm very much.
you seem very chill, actually. I should say that you don't seem like a stressed person at all,
Really?
which is really interesting.
I
yeah.
do get stressed. I do have like days where I'm very, very anxious, and especially with my cycle, like during my menstrual cycle, when it comes to like just before my period, I'm like, oh, I'm such a bitch. And then after that, kind of like goes back down. But I feel like a lot of women are like that.
Okay.
But I think like over time and what I've learned from when I was going through that really stressful period to now is like to just, I feel like we, especially as women, and probably men as well, but because my audience is predominantly female, and I feel like we bully ourselves so much, and I did that all the time. Like I would just bully myself. I think you say things to yourself that you wouldn't dare say to anyone else. And like if we go online, you're like, oh, that poor person's getting trolled, or like, why would you troll someone? I'm like, you're literally trolling yourself when you should be your own best friend and looking after, like, you and your body is your number one priority over everyone else. And I think I used to put so many other people before myself on my own self-care and self-love that now I'm like, no, if you're like negative in my life, or I feel like you're a jellyfish, like a person that just pretends to be nice but just stings but then takes it back, I'm like, I just don't want you to be my friend. I would rather be by myself in my own happy little bubble of non-stressfulness than have that kind of negativity.
like,
And you just have to, and I think it takes a lot of courage to get there. But then once you're there, and like a lot of people are very afraid of like letting go of relationships and things like that, but I find that toxic relationships can give you the most stress in your life, or like doing something that you don't enjoy doing. Like you should do the thing, like you only live, that's so cliche, YOLO. You only live once, but it's so true. Like don't do, like we have so many opportunities, especially now, like today there's so many, like you can go and be whatever you choose to be, and you should really try and live that life.
Nice. Did you always have that philosophy, that YOLO
No.
philosophy?
Never.
No.
I studied nursery school teaching at university, and I hate kids. I was like,
What was that about?
like, why am I here? Because my parents were like so typical Irish mommy and daddy. You should be a teacher. I should be a teacher. Get great holidays. That's what I should do. Yeah, and it's just like, but I don't like children, so I don't want to do that. Like I do, like no, I don't. I'm like I do like children.
Yeah, but you don't want to teach them for a career.
Yeah, I don't. And my sister does. She's a teacher, and she absolutely adores
And
it.
it
And
takes
my
a
mom
different
was a
type of folk.
teacher
Yeah.
and loved it, and so that's where that kind of comes from.
Okay.
But my mom. I don't think my mom wanted to be a teacher, but she was like, "Oh, you should be a teacher." I think her parents were probably like, "You should do that."
Isn't
And
that
so she
interesting?
was
That
like,
foundation
how they
"Yeah,
do it.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like once you are a mom, it's really hard to not like have certain things that you're kind of hoping for.
Yeah.
Like, I really want my son to be whatever he's meant to be, and to I'm excited to see what those things are. But there's a part of me that's kind of like chef, artist.
yeah."
Oh, you've said it now?
Oh,
no!
You know, like, and
Yeah.
I know for lots of parents, they're kind of like lawyer, accountant,
Yes.
whatever, and I'm like, not lawyer, not accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I'm like, hope he's something to do with really cooking lovely food,
Aw.
or like
For
helping
me.
people in the world,
Yay.
or like creating beautiful art, and those are
Uh-huh.
things that I'm drawn to. So I'm like, ooh, hope he likes those things. And our parents are the same. So my
Yeah.
mom was like, be a linguist, go be a translator. You'd be brilliant at it. Be a lawyer. And I was like, I can see why you think I'd be good at those things.
Yeah.
And I probably would. I just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not me in any way
It's so
whatsoever.
true, because it's like, yeah, I may be good at that,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I'm going to be happy
Yeah.
at that. And I think like your happiness just comes above everything else.
And what's weird is you're not always like, the thing that you're best at is not always the thing you should do for your entire career.
Exactly.
Like I'm still trying to work out what's a hobby and what's a career, to be honest with you. Like
Exactly.
I've sort of decided at this point, just by dint of practice, one thing is going to become my career. But the other things that are hobbies are like just as enjoyable, if not more. And if I put as much time into them, maybe they would be the thing that I would decide will become overwhelmingly like earning
And I
a crust.
think like for me, I like constantly change, like all the time. I'm like, oh, I think I want to try and do this, whatever it may be. And I know my parents are like, right. And I'm like, I'm just going to give it a go. And I'm like, and if someone offers me to do something, they'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, do you want to try this? And I'm like, yes.
Great.
Like, even
Yeah,
though I may not, be good at it, I'll just give it a go. And if I am, well, then that's awesome.
great,
And if
yeah.
I'm terrible, well, then let's not
But
do
that's
that.
what's exciting, isn't it? That's what keeps
Exactly.
it exciting. And some people don't need that. Some people really like to know, I'm going to be here
Are very
on this
structured,
day.
yeah.
That's what makes them feel comfy and less stressed. For me, the idea of knowing that on a Thursday in 2 years' time I'm going to be at some desk in some place, that is stressful.
See,
for
that
me.
gives me
It
anxiety
gives me
as well.
proper anxiety.
But some people love that. They like that like structure. So like we're a family of 5, and my older sister's a teacher. My youngest brother is a lawyer, a barrister actually,
Okay.
and he wants to go on and be a judge. And so,
Wow.
and then the 3 in the middle. So you have
Oh,
me,
wow.
who's like doing loads of different things. Then my brother he works in the film industry,
Okay.
in production. He wants to do directing, and he's very much all over the place with that. But
Oh, interesting.
really is doing really well for himself. And then the other brother, he just wants to work in a coffee shop.
Right,
That's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
and he loves making coffee. He's like, I am so happy making coffee.
Wow.
And you're like, would you not go and do it? And he's like, no.
Oh.
But he's very like, no,
Okay. Really,
I
it's
want
like,
to do this.
It's committed. It's not.
Yeah.
He's not copping out of things.
No,
this is
he's
actually
like,
the thing
no,
you
this
want.
is what,
My
why,
choice.
he's like, why would I go and do, I'm like, oh, but maybe make more money doing something else. And he's like, I don't care. I just want to make coffee and be happy.
I
And you're
like
like,
your
yay!
brother. That's a cool dude.
is it.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's just
Right.
like, that's what I want to do.
He's pretty
So
sad.
we're all so different.
It's a real mix.
So we have like, so then I understand when people are like, oh, but that would give me anxiety. I'm like, yeah, but that's, that,
Yeah,
that's you, and that's
And
what you like.
You have to find it. I mean,
Yeah.
I was giving an active birth workshop this weekend to a couple, and I was saying to them, because I had a home birth, so
Ah.
people have this preconception that I'm just trying to make everyone have a home birth.
Yeah.
But the thing is I think with birth, and it's the same as like managing digestive conditions or hormonal conditions or anything, you need to find the thing that makes you safe and makes you less stressed. And for me, I'm not a go to the doctor person. I'm not a hospital person. Even the thought of it, that's anxious for me.
Opposite to me. And they have my doctor and speed dial.
Exactly.
My favorites.
Exactly, and
interesting.
see, and that's these people that I was working with. they had a tough time getting pregnant, and they have a lot of fears and anxieties which are totally justified. So I was saying to them, you don't beat yourself up about the fact that you haven't opted to have a home birth, or you're nervous about staying at home, because for you, your birth is going to go smoothest in the place where you're least stressed. And for you, once you get to hospital and you know there's scanning equipment and all the stuff, you're going to be like, I'm here, I'm in the safe place. So that's your home, that's go there. Whereas for me, the opposite was true. I knew the moment I got to hospital, I would have been like, something's wrong, I'm in an ill place, there's something wrong with me, they're going to do some things to me. And that's it with life. We have to just identify what our triggers are and go,
it's so true.
this is my home stretch here, let's sit here.
I like that. It's a good way of putting it.
Nice. Thank you very much for having a chat with us.
Oh,
this
thank
great.
you.
I feel we've
really
already talked for
enjoyed
another
it.
hour.
I know.
I was like, no, we've been here for over an hour. We should probably.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to get sunburn if I don't force
I know.
like one side of my face tomorrow.
So I'm using my hair as my shield.
Again, little
like a weapon.
I'm like, not only does she have beautiful hair, it's covering her whole face.
It's covering me here. It's my shield.
Nice.
If people want to find you online or want to work with you, where do they go?
To my Instagram, which is Maeve_Madden.
Okay. And do you have a website?
I do, but I don't really go on there. It's not my happy place.
Right, okay, fair enough.
I prefer like doing it. I do most things through Instagram.
Okay.
You can contact me on there, my emails and everything and all that.
Okay.
Perfect.
And if anyone has questions for Maeve and they want to contact us, we will try and pass those on too. As well.
And we'd like to say thank you, obviously, to our lovely sponsors, Swivel, the people who made this lovely device. That we're shooting on now.
It's a great device.
It is.
I'm
cool,
very impressed.
Well, you're not even dancing around. If we dance around a bit,
it would follow you and track you. So
does it?
you can do yoga and all sorts of stuff on it.
I need to get one of these.
We have a discount code.
Does it really? Do you have a discount? I love a good discount code. I am the most easily influenced person.
Cool. Have a wander. Go with her. Go with her.
Please work.
Go with her. Swivel. Swivel.
Switched up.
What?
Oh no! Edit that bit out.
That was like the worst time for the swivel ever. What? What did you just do, Swivel? You're like.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on. Yeah, 100%. And it's like tracking you as well. That's bizarre.
I'm going
to press the little central thing. Excuse me.
Is it?
Sorry,
maybe it's my hair that's in the way.
That's it. It's going. She has too much hair. She looks too good already. Don't follow her.
Is it working?
I just press the middle button. Oh, you bold swivel.
Oh no! I'm so sad.
Press the center button once more.
Go.
Just for fun. Tracking on. What are you tracking? You're not tracking anything.
Maybe it's tracking.
She's got the main one.
She has the main one. It's just decided it's having. It must be the heat. I don't know.
Must
At
be
least
the
it's recording.
heat.
It's doing like the basics.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, let's pretend that didn't happen.
we
all sit back.
That's so poo. Okay, it's a beautiful thing when it works. That's awful.
But I must get one.
Well,
Yeah,
do
you
get one,
should.
definitely.
Those are great. And
They're
can
so
you
handy.
put any camera in there or only an iPhone?
No, literally any
No,
camera.
any
So you've got like a little kind of cradle thingy. You can switch out the cradles, pop in like DSLRs, whatever you want.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really handy.
Because I find I always need someone to shoot for me
That's what
for
I was
this
say to you. I was
purpose.
thinking
Yeah.
exactly.
Really handy.
I need this.
And it does
Swivel.
work.
Should we
No-
finish on the ground?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Let's pretend that we didn't.
Thank God that was
Are we
with
all
you.
gonna
I
do
was like,
that?
Say thank you too. Our shitty sponsor. No. So, yeah. So thank you to Swivel who made this lovely device that we're shooting on right now. Also, thank you to Clear Light Saunas, our infrared sauna, lovely people as well. If guys want to go deep into the health benefits of infrared, come and chat to us. We will help you by getting some bucks
great
off
for
your
skin, great for anti-inflammatory.
Oh, listen,
Yeah.
kind of
Loads
everything
of
else.
stuff.
Yeah, immune system, all the things. And also thank you to Newzest, who sponsor our little podcast now. We have a little issue because a certain other well-known person took this on the plane. Took Maeve's one of these.
I'm very upset.
Stole Maeve's
Can we-
goodie
can
But
we
bag.
I'm
name him?
going to get
Can
it
we name him?
back.
Yeah.
Joe.
Wicks, give Maeve back her bag.
Stole
I would like it back. You can contact me on my Instagram, Joe.
Yeah.
I love
Slide
it.
it.
Yeah.
So what
When
we
it was
have
on, yeah.
instead is our
Yeah.
absolute favourite wellness tonic, which is by Moo Tonics, and that is Jamu.
Yeah.
See it there? Everyone who follows me and Finn online know that we're just always talking about this because we take it all the time.
I'm pretty giddy
This
about it.
is
It's a
really
great
good
energizer.
for anti-inflammatory stuff, really good for immune system in the winter,
Yeah.
really good for skin.
Yeah, so they decoct turmeric over like 4 hours. You know, the way turmeric benefits from heat. You know, they
Yeah.
like the heat turmeric of milk. So turmeric's like, I think it's the only botanical, or one of the only botanicals that's established as like effective against all 27 different inflammatory markers. So all the interleukins and cytokines and everything.
I'm so excited.
So
That's
magic
exactly
for
what
that
I
hay
need.
fever, I hope, etc., etc.
Yeah.
You know?
And you can have a
Um,
hot or cold.
yeah.
And they're here
Yum,
today
yum.
at Wellfest.
Deadly. And they're lovely people in general.
They
They're nice.
really are
Made in West Cork. Lots of love.
Oh,
Cool. Thank you so much for
lovely.
coming on.
Thank
okay,
you,
Debbie,
guys.
thanks for the chat.
Thank
Nice
you.
to- Thank you for watching.
Oh, thank you. I froze.
But-
I was like,
Good.
Look
ah,
But focus.
freeze me. Like,
okay, but we also have to do the 3 questions. Can we do that?
oh yeah, what's the
yeah,
3
that'll be
questions?
good. Okay.
You don't get to know it.
Oh, I
Ooh.
don't. Oh, that's
Like
exciting.
a desert island discs moment. Can
Exactly.
I please put my head
Excited.
back away
Yeah,
from this
shit, man. I'm going to be so burnt to the back of
So
my poor little
I
head.
know. I'm so sorry.
No, okay, I was just my poor lack of foresight. I did put on sun cream, but probably not attentively enough, let's be honest. I did like one of those
50.
dad versions where you're like,
Nice.
you know, dad never puts on sun cream
Yeah.
properly.
I
Yeah.
know.
Like cement.
Basically, yeah. That's it,
We're
exactly.
gonna have
Once.
like first day period heat stroke.
Oh, God. Okay.
That's
Weird, right?
the
The sun
worst.
affects you so much more. I'm always in sunny situations on my period. Let's cut that bit. Okay.
Righto.
So,
So,
Maeve Madden,
Mm.
3
Yes.
questions for you.
Which
Number
one do you wanna
1
go?
question
Yeah.
is, what is the book that has made the biggest change for your life?
Like the book that I wrote, Beat Your Bloat.
Yeah, there you go.
Available on
Good plug.
Amazon. That was
Ruthless plug.
that was a pretty big life-changing moment for me.
Nice.
No, it
Yeah,
really was. Yeah.
seriously,
It was also really handy because it's literally like my bloating Bible.
Yeah, so
And
just
it's,
go
yeah,
check
so
it
I
if
can
you
like,
forget.
oh yeah.
What do I think about this? Perfect. I remember. Great.
What's good for my body? I'll just see
Oh,
what
yes.
I wrote
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
What did I write? Eat this, not that.
Great.
Perfect. It's all in there.
That's cool.
So yes, obviously my own book, Beat Your Bloat.
Nice. And so, what did your school report say about you?
Oh, it was always, and it's so funny because my mom was always like the same. So
It's
it was
funny you're a
always.
school teacher thing. Actually, yes,
I
it's
know.
perfect. Sorry.
So they were always like, Maeve is really lovely and really quiet, which I was in school. I was just like really quiet. So I'm quite a shy person.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you got that vibe.
Not
no,
exactly.
not at
I'll
all.
be honest. Yeah.
So I think, but I would always be very afraid to, which they would always say, like, even if I knew the answer, I would be afraid if I was wrong. And so I always had that fear of being wrong. And I still have that, like, even today. And so it would always have said that. And it would
Okay.
always be like, but she'll get there in the end.
Okay.
So I was never like the A-star student who'd be like, oh my God. But I was, if I wanted to do something, I would always get there.
Okay.
In my own way.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
take my own time.
Good
It was
stuff.
never about rushing. I just sally along.
Yeah.
And it was very much like that. Maeve just sallies along.
And that's how it happened.
Which I did.
Yeah.
But
Isn't
here
that
I am.
interesting? Hey,
Yeah.
some
So
things work
it's
out
fine.
pretty well.
Exactly.
Right.
And
Number
last
3.
one is, what is your guilty pleasure?
Which, no, just like your top 3 guilty pleasures then. Okay.
There's like so many. So many. I really don't even want to say because it's really bad. Like, I love a really cold Coke Zero.
Okay, right.
Like
no
a
way.
really,
Yeah.
like,
Ice
I
cold.
love it.
My dad was big into that as well.
Oh, it's really, I
never
have to
got it.
wean myself off it.
No,
Like, I
I used to
go.
be actually addicted to Coke, and I said
It's
this
really
once on a podcast,
addictive.
and they were like, "You're addicted to Coke." I was like, "No,
No, Coca-Cola.
the drink."
The drink. Yeah, so like, and I do. I have to like go cold turkey and be like, I cannot eat this anymore or drink this anymore. So yes, Coke Zero would be like really bad.
The biggest.
And I think that's my only real
yeah.
would be like that. And pick a mix.
Pick a mix.
Yeah, I really love
Any particular ones in the pick a mix?
I do all of them.
Equally, I love
Like
them all.
I
They're all my
just
children.
yeah,
Strawberry ones.
when I go there, I get so excited. I'm not the big popcorn. I'm like
Okay, yeah.
in, and I love the big
Fried
fudgy
eggs?
pieces. No, the
No.
big fudge pieces.
Okay,
yeah.
With
nice,
the
okay.
white mice,
Yeah,
she's
kind of
into that,
mix
I'm not.
that together. It's delicious. Yeah, so that third guilty pleasure. I don't know, probably just binge watching Netflix.
Okay, yeah.
Just
What show? What show?
At the moment, the Santa Clarita Diet. Have
Oh,
you ever watched that?
I've been meaning to watch,
It's
but I haven't.
absolutely hilarious. So I started it last Sunday.
Uh-oh, go on. How far through are you? We won't
3.
tell your agent, or we won't tell anybody who works with you.
Like 27 episodes.
What, in a
I
week?
know, but
Wow.
they're only 30 minutes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, right.
So that's
we're
fine.
doing the calculus. That's 14 hours.
Yeah,
How
that's
much screen time do you
that's
Yeah.
a lot. So that would be definitely.
I literally won't get myself a Netflix account because I know I can't limit myself once I go
You
there.
don't
I've
have
zero.
Netflix?
No, I can't.
I wish
won't.
sometimes I didn't have it.
I'm really glad I don't. I mean, she
I'm
even
like,
gave me a
next
code
one.
last week. I was like, I don't.
No.
Delete it off my computer. I have no
It's
self-control.
really, really bad. You're just like, just one more.
Listen,
5
yeah.
a.m. Just one more.
I'd be up in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
bad.
so hard,
Yeah.
especially on the weekends.
Oh,
But you know
God.
what? Sometimes and like some people love just like sitting and reading a book, and I just love being surrounded by the pick and mix with my ice cold syrup and the Netflix. I'm like, yes, this is life.
I feel like we can make a really good new advert. Like your
Just
Maeve
me.
Madden's new program for
Maeve
health? I
Madden's-
don't know.
Maeve Madden's like, you know, in modelling you have a head, like a, what's that called? Like
The
a
headshot,
headshot thingy
yeah.
with the like bits of information like
Yeah.
height, weight.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like
Loves.
Me.
with
Just
the pick and
me.
mix and the movie.
Loads of pick and mix.
Maeve
So
Madden,
good.
health coach.
I love it.
Loves the pick and
That's
mix.
good.
Guilty
Oh,
pleasures
good.
though, and you
It
know
is.
what? We all need them.
That's
it's
what's so
balance.
important. That's why we ask you.
Exactly.
We're not asking you because we're like, oh, let's find
let's
it.
find her dirty.
I
Come
know,
on,
but
whatever.
actually, this is really bad. So I was in Madrid on a hen party with my sister, and a girl messaged me and was like, "Just so you know,
Uh-oh.
just so you know, espresso martinis are really bad for IBS." And I was like, "Just so you know."
I knew that, and I did.
I
it
know
anyway.
that exactly. I was like, I was on a hen party, and I obviously shared it. Like, I don't care. I'm like, yes, I drink alcohol.
That's
It's
mad.
not the greatest for your gut
Yeah.
or your ovaries and stuff, but I'm not there every day.
But it's
Yeah.
also
Or
like
even
that's why
once.
you arm
But
yourself
yeah.
with the information, because you're going,
Exactly.
I'm going to 90% of the time do a really good job, so that 10%
Yeah.
of the time it's okay if I come to
Exactly.
breakfast and eat a brioche bun
Yeah.
burger. Like I did.
And the most
That's
magic
yummy.
supplement that we bloody well left in there for would be like the perfect thing to be taken
yeah.
to be taken away. It was like this new fermented like kefir and kombucha probiotic supplement with like aloe vera and slippery elm and something else in there, and that's like the ideal thing for preparing yourself for a night out of your espresso martinis when you know
Yes.
that it's going to be the next morning not great.
Yeah.
Joe Wicks, give it back.
Damn it,
Yes.
Joe Wicks.
Give her goodie bag back to her.
Yeah, so I can
Right.
keep drinking the espresso martini.
Exactly. Enable me.
Yeah.
Later, you have to do an Instagram post when you get the bag back with the bag and you
Yeah.
wandering into
I'm
Walmart.
ready.
Look what they
I'm
did to me.
armed.
Exactly. Oh.
Oh,
Cool.
Maeve, thank you so
Thank you
much.
No, thank you
Daddy,
so much.
sound.
Thank you.
Nice one.
Thanks.
Cheers. See you again.